All right, I'm just gonna run down these other lists. Might say a little bit here and there. Documentaries. This is a relatively short list. The first documentary that I would say was kind of like a red pill for me. I've mentioned it on a previous podcast before. It's called America: From Freedom to Fascism. The filmmaker, his name was Aaron Rousseau. He's passed away since then. It focused on the American income tax law. Anyhow, another another really influential one, especially in my life, given like my personal story and things that have happened in my family and stuff. There's a one called The American Drug War, The Last White Hope.
Yeah, you mentioned that one before.
Amazing, amazing. Just nothing else to say, but check that one out.
Right.
Zeitgeist, I would say, was probably behind Kymatica. I would say that's solidly my second favorite documentary ever. Filmmaker Peter Joseph. You can find that one free on YouTube. I'll have the link to that in the description as well. And then Ben Stewart, pretty much any documentary he's made deserves its flowers. So he made one with John Chavez called DMT Quest. It's about endogenous DMT, the DMT that's already in our body that we can activate through meditation and certain physical practices like cold baths. Wim Hof is in the documentary. Esoteric Agenda, classic truther, whatever label you prefer for the conspiracists of the world. But for me, Esoteric Agenda, the last about 12 minutes, it's called, he does it in chapters, and it's the last chapter. It's called Illusion and Reality. But that last chapter of Esoteric Agenda specifically blew my mind, and it's actually what got me into Ben Stewart. It's why I watched Kymatica. It's the reason I knew about Kymatica, because I was one of the first like 400 people to watch Kymatica.
To watch the joint.
When I watched it, I was like, "There's only 300 and some views." Like, I was like, "Blunt, like, how is this not fucking on the mainstream news?" You know what I mean? Like, why isn't this huge? Well, I was still, naive at that time, but anyway,
I can't wait to see your link list for this episode.
This is going to be so good.
It's going to be, it's going to be for everything we've talked about in every episode.
Yeah,
it's going to come back to fruition just from this link list. It's crazy.
Ungrip, he did a documentary called Ungrip. It's about at maritime admiralty law, which I'll talk about a little bit later, so I'm not going to go too deep into that right now. Esoteric Agenda 2.2, he released that on BitChute. It's not on YouTube. That came out right when coronavirus hit, May 2020. And then, like I already said, Kymatica, number one to me, best documentary of all time, period. And Ben Stewart says that's my baby, and I understand, Ben. That's so good. Kymatica, just top. Creme de la creme, better than Zeitgeist, and Zeitgeist is
I remember he specifically said I had to take Zeitgeist to the next level, and the only way to do that was to kind of tap into where he felt
Peter Joseph had missed the spots. He was filling in the gaps,
which is how, just like a good artist, man. That's why
you build off of other good artists.
That's why I don't care that Playboy Cardi, that's his lane, because you know what? Somebody's gonna come along that can probably rap like Kendrick, but loves Playboy, and is gonna fuse those two worlds together, and it's gonna blow our minds. Oh my God. I didn't even think it could evolve. Every time I say it can't evolve anymore. Like, production can't get any more better than what it is now. Production is great. Yeah, right. It's always evolving. Always. Yeah. So no, I love that stuff, because like Zeitgeist came through, he had to lay the foundation, and then A Star Is Born every day came through and took it to the next level. I'm probably going to watch Climatica again. So I saw Climatica in pieces.
Kymatica. There's no L in it.
Excuse me, Climatica. Climatica. I see what I can do with that one. But anyway, that's another conversation. Climatica. I need to have one sit with it and watch it all the way through.
Yes, you do. Yes. Yeah, for sure. That's number one. Creme de la creme. Number one, period. No, that's there's no gray area in the documentary category for me. That one's solid number one.
That's the one. Gotcha.
So my top 25 has some Twitter accounts on them, but there was a couple of Twitter accounts that I felt like I wanted to give their flowers to that's not on my top 25 list. So shout out Wida Vision on Twitter at Wida, WIDA, with a space in between each one. Vision. It's got like a Black Panther eye as the profile. I'm pretty sure he's based out of UK based on some of the tweets, as well as Pyramid Realm, who he was on an episode with Conspiracy, and I mentioned both of these guys specifically because I've seen them promote the Four Agreements, and I love anybody that does that. So got to give you all my flowers.
Hey,
shout out Pyramid
man.
Realm. Shout out Wide Vision. Next category, personal mentors. Like you said with Mark White, I've got 3 that I had to mention. One, Dave Bratt. He was my faculty advisor at Randolph-Macon.
You talked about him before too, yeah.
Chair of the economics department, and
he was the one that made you reconsider what you were.
He was an economics professor, and he was the one that encouraged me to take a philosophy course.
Right.
And his idea was to get a philosophy minor and still major in economics, but you know, he pushed me down that road, and the snowball just
have you had an opportunity to see him since school
no.
or reach out to him?
No, because he got big time. He went he was our congressman for 4 years or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he was the House of Representatives seat, and for District 7, Henrico, Hanover, Richmond area, Glen Allen, and all that. And then he got beat out in 2018. He ran as a Republican, and I don't agree with him on everything, but he's a thinker, and he pushed me in the right direction, and I love the guy with all my heart. So shout out Dave Bratt, give you my flowers. And then a friend of his, I'm not going to say his actual name because he wrote a book in a pen name. So just the fact that he wrote a book in a pen name, maybe he doesn't want his identity being public or whatever. But the pen name was Peter Monroe, and the book is called Daddy X, and it's about Malcolm X's philosophy applied to fatherhood. It's called Daddy X. It's amazing, and I know him personally. I've done some work for him. He runs a website called praxiscircle.com. He's also a Republican and a Christian, and I don't always agree with those. I can't get down with all of that a lot of times, but if there's 2 Christian Republicans that I look up to and consider mentors and people that have pushed me in the right direction, Mr. Monroe and Dave Bratt would be those 2.
I was about to say, regardless, there's a theme to what you've been saying, though.
Right.
Because I told you, I already
again, yeah, exactly. You got to sift through. You got to sift through what resonates with you, and at the end of the day, they're talking about things that the mainstream considers taboo. So, of course, ultimately, mad love and respect for both Dave Bratt and Mr. Monroe. And then last one, my friend, but I grew up with the guy. He was like my brother growing up as an only child. So got to give my flowers to Jesse Fuller. Sure. Love you, bro. Yeah. We don't, we're not like best friends or anything. We don't talk too often, but it's like a relationship where every time I talk to him, it's like catching up with my brother,
Yep.
So shout out Jesse. And then, so he's kind of like a good segue because he's like kind of a mentor, kind of an older brother. But then friends and fam, there's only a couple on here that I really want to shout out outside of my dad and my grandma. And of course, all of the people that, shaped me as a child, but there's a different level to the family that you choose, the family that you're born with, and then the family that you choose. The family that you choose it's a different level, man.
It is. And when you say it that way too, the family that you choose, you're right.
A-Dubs, love you, bro. And Timmy B, they're my brothers. That's what it is. That's what it is. Timmy B. And James, I mean, obviously, I would not have made you co-host of my podcast if I didn't feel you're a epic being, epic spirit. So give you flowers, man.
I appreciate you, bro. Same to you, man.
And then I've got a few lists here that I'm going to kind of run through. The top 25 I'll spend a little bit of time on, but these next few I'm going to run through. Unpopular but still influential: Ben Shapiro, Bill Gates, Edward Snowden, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Tom Brady, Warren Buffett. For better or worse, most of those people, I mean, Tom Brady, I have a soft spot for him just because he did the 4 agreements thing on ESPN. But obviously he's plugged into the,
it is what it is, man.
To the, you know what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the other names on here: Elon, Bill Gates, Shapiro. A lot of people hate these people. And I disagree with them more than I agree with them. But there are lessons that I have gleaned.
It's okay to disagree.
Right.
Yes.
So
people need to probably, damn, bro, we don't have to agree with everything to still respect.
I mean, even Bill Gates, Bill Gates, and I mean, even Fauci could be on this list because like they're masters in the dark realm, and that's a teacher in a certain way, in one way or another. It's teaching us what we really are. And so
I guess you can look at it that way.
It's the balancing act, bro.
No, it is though.
So honorable mention, they didn't make the top 25. First, I'm going to go down my list that says controlled opposition ? Alex Jones, David Icke, Dave Chappelle, Paul Stamets. Paul Stamets is a fungus expert. A lot of people don't realize that he would be considered controlled opposition, but I talked to a friend and he got me on some Reddit threads and I got into a rabbit hole, and yeah, I'm pretty sure he's controlled opposition.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's talking about mycology. He's educating in some ways, again, you have to sift through the bullshit yourself, but he's talking about things that I like to talk about. So Paul Stamets, regardless of whether you're controlled op or not, give you my flowers. Shout out to you. RFK Jr. A lot of evidence he's, at least on the pro blockchain end of things, even if he is anti-vaccine and health freedom, there's Alison McDowell has exposed a lot of the dark side of the freedom. She always capitalizes the DOM because it's still a dominance colonization mindset or mindset, I think is the right word, that some of these resistance celebrities are coming from. So either way, again, controlled op or not, opening the dialogue, talking about things that are taboo, I appreciate it. So I'm going to shout you out, even if I don't all the way agree with everything you're doing. Catherine Austin Fitz, same thing. Allison actually went on her podcast, and then Allison, there's been some things going on. Allison has been calling some people out lately.
I told you I follow her on Twitter, so I've been seeing there's been some scuttlebuggs.
Yeah, it's interesting. And if people are, her whole thing is, I'm standing strong on this blockchain issue because whether the cryptocurrency thing, again, she calls that a Trojan horse. That's not what she's worried about. What she's worried about is the fact that biological humans and children, it's one thing if an adult that has informed consent chooses to enter the metaverse and have a digital twin and allow all their data to be tracked, and it's not the decision that she's going to make based on the information that she has. But it's a whole different level when babies are being put on the blockchain, when kindergartners are being put on the blockchain, and that's what she's speaking out against, and I respect her for that.
I respect that too, and that's what I told you that. I said, listen, this is a whole nother generation that's being born into this, and it's going to be so cool and awesome, and nobody's even, especially at a young age, nobody's even, unless you're you're in special or chosen or something, like you're not even starting to think outside of that until like later in life. And that's the problem with a lot of, they get you early, and I mean, that's what it is anyway.
Yep. But so I don't want to I'm not going to tell the whole story, but basically Allison went on Catherine Austin Fitz podcast. Catherine Austin Fitz has chosen to speak at this event called the Greater Reset, which she feels is pro blockchain, and based on their advertisements. I mean, I haven't looked into that specifically enough, but I trust Allison that she's looked into it. She's like such a deep dive researcher, and just ferocious. so I trust that, she's making the right decision for herself. I might be a little bit more forgiving and lenient of people for making mistakes. I know I've made plenty, and I've changed my mind so much that maybe because of that, I'm more forgiving and more lenient of people that I might disagree with, even if I strongly disagree with them.
Right.
I don't know.
Allison might be right about everything she's saying. She probably is right about everything she's saying, because look who we're dealing with.
No, I agree.
The powers that be. But I will say, I think Allison has to probably, and listen, I think I heard her say this before, and I respect this too. And I think I've said this too. We're at a point where there is no more room for, I gotta kind of just feel it out and see, because of how far we're into this.
I understand how she feels.
Yeah, I understand how she feels. Exactly. So I preference what I'm about to say by saying that. But I will say that we got to remember, we still are dealing with, going back to what I was saying, people don't know shit. They really don't, even though they think they do.
Right.
So when you get somebody so immersed in one track of it, they don't know the other stuff that Allison's probably even talking about. They could be talking about the Great Reset and how fucked up Fauci is and all of this stuff, and still be.
Well, they do. No, these are resistance movement people. These are people that are, for the most part, on board with all the stuff that we talk about. The problem she has with them is they're promoting blockchain, and she's like,
I don't think
calling out. Here's the information. She addresses them directly, which is what I respect.
Okay.
She's like, she goes right to him, and she's like, where do you stand on this position? And social impact finance, the blockchaining children, blockchaining educational records, and she'll ask directly. So respect. Again, maybe I'm too forgiving. I do respect Allison's point of view, and I respect that she's not willing to associate with anybody that she considers even questionable as far as supporting blockchaining people, blockchaining human beings. So, shout out that she's on my top 25 list. So we'll get to her again.
Yeah.
Billy
Carson, a remarkable episode you and her did together.
Thank you.
For real.
Billy Carson, the Black Billy Carson.
I was about to say, is that your great grand?
No, my dad's name is Billy Carson, but there's a Billy Carson that's right. That's like a conscious influencer. He's associated with Gaia. And Gaia is actually on my quote unquote, just Gaia in general. They're on my quote unquote controlled op list, but at the same time, they're talking about a lot of things that
exactly. I mean, you have a whole network dedicated to the alternative. I mean, that's enough right there. You have a whole network.
But Allison would say there's a lot of blockchain people in there. So, I mean, I get it. I get that too. JP Sears, he's a comedian that I still think he's funny, but he's just gone too far pro-Trump for me lately. I don't know what's up with him, but I still like him. I still think he
picked a side.
Yeah, no, I know, but I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like picking.
I don't like it either. But I can tell you one thing. I can tell you what side ain't being picked.
I agree, but for me,
I get it, G. If it
always comes back to the immortal technique bar. I don't see a difference in between the wrong and the wrong.
No, you're right, but.
That's it. I know. Right. There's no but for me, because fuck the Republicans. I feel this strongly.
No, fuck them all.
When I say fuck the Republicans, I mean it as strongly as when I say fuck the Democrats.
Fuck them all. But I think I am to the point now where I do think I don't care what surface people. Oh, what are you talking about? How could you say what you're saying because I'm a liberal and I'm such a shit? I get what the normal everyday average citizen that's a liberal is. You have no idea. So I get it. Like, you're probably fine. I get it. I'm talking about the people that know what's up, that know and are liberal. It's different. Oh, James, you're conservative. It has nothing to do with that once again, because we got to clearly always remind these sheep that it has nothing to do with choosing a side, but it is pointing out one side very hard because with me, it hits a little differently personally. But anyway, I'm not ranting, G.
No, it is what it is.
Wrong is wrong.
Well, the next two, look, as long as we're on this political rant, I might as well name these next two. Ron Paul and Andrew Yang. They're probably the only two politicians that I've ever felt like I support. Again, after the fact, down the road, I have many more disagreements with them these days than I did when I was more supportive of them. But either way, they've both impacted me. They're the only two politicians that have ever written books that I've read. I read The Revolution by Ron Paul, as well as End the Fed by Ron Paul. And I liked both books. Again, as I grew older, some of the ideas became less and less favorable to me, I guess.
You mean like
less and less appealing.
Ideas?
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, they still, again, they opened my mind in different ways. And Andrew Yang, you know, he wrote a book called The War on Normal People. Allison would probably hate me for giving any sort of love to Andrew Yang, because he's definitely on the pro technocrat.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
I'm not a big Yang fan anymore, but there are some ideas in that book.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you can always sift through and find the nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, shit, there's shit I like Trump say.
You know, I agree. I agree with that. But I still don't like. I don't like his character. I don't like
crazy.
I don't like Trump's character. I don't like his.
No, I feel you. A lot of people don't like Trump's character. I personally, I don't know, man. I've grown.
I know how you feel about him, but I still don't.
With me. I just think we're in a moment with the people, with the powers that be, where, and listen, I get it. He's plugged into the powers that be. But my point is, you can't passive ain't working no more. That's why, at the same token, I feel Allison, even with the statement I was about to say before, where it was like, I remember one pod we did, I think it was when I was sitting outside and something was going on that day. And I was like, you either get it or you don't. Like we're at a point now after this whole COVID thing, there is no more like, oh, I'm gonna dip my toe in and kind of, nah, man, there's no more excuses. I think I was just ranting about how there's no more excuses. You got to get it now, because what are we doing? Like dipping your toe in was what should have been happening forever ago, so we wouldn't even be here today, but we are here today.
I feel you, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Foster Gamble. Okay, so this is most people are going to say that's obvious controlled op there. He's heir to the Procter and Gamble fortune, but he did a documentary called Thrive, and again, controlled op or not, there's a lot of good information in that documentary. I thought it was a really good one. So
hey, once again, sometimes people are born into things and they actually do feel and look at things differently than they're taught or bred to look at it.
And he tells his story at the beginning of that documentary, and that's pretty much, you nailed it. You know, he said he didn't like the way that his elitist family and circle ran, so he kind of did his own thing.
I pretty much know that same thing that happened with Princess Diana. And that's different because she married into that she wasn't, so that's different. But I think it's very similar to where some other people on that hierarchy tree are at too, like the granddaughter of the Rothschild that's fucking dating Jay Electronica right now. Now, granted, she could just be what they call a handler for all I know, but
yeah,
I just find it very hard to believe that Jay Electronica is being handled. I just can't wrap my brain around that. So I don't think that's what's happening. So anyway, all I'm saying is we see that often, where it is not out of the realm of possibility that somebody could be born into an elitist family and still look around as they grow up and be like, what the fuck? This shit is nuts. What is this? So,
No, I definitely understand
like
that.
Said, controlled op or not, you just can't shun them out, listen, and make your own discernment.
Greg Braden, he's actually the host of a show called Missing Links on Gaia. But yeah, I really appreciate him. Again, another one that may be controlled op, but I'm so sick of that fucking term. It's like, just figure it out yourself. Like if you have a specific issue with something that they've done or said, then bring up that specific issue. Don't say they're associated with Gaia, so he's automatically controlled op. Like, that's such a lazy argument. I'm tired of that shit. Like, I understand they might be controlled op. I'm not even disagreeing with you. Just like specifically address what you don't like. Like, don't just try to undermine their, character, or like just try to be dismissive of them. Period.
Exactly.
Like, I don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
Eric Dubay, flat Earth guy. Brought him up earlier, so not much more to say there. Albert Hoffman, he discovered LSD. Alex Gray, he is a psychedelic artist that runs a mission or an art facility, kind of I don't know what you would call it, a retreat up in upstate New York called the Cosmic of Sacred Mirrors, or the Cosmos of Sacred Mirrors, or something like that. But he's trippy. His art is, just type in Alex Gray art and just do a Google image search and you'll be like, whoa. Chris Bennett, he's like a cannabis expert, I would say. He did a Ben Stewart podcast, so I'll put that in the description. But that's the main reason. That's the reason I heard about him, and he was just, cannabis is a love of mine. So yeah, he was great. Daniel Pinchback, he's an author. I read two of his books from back in the day, Breaking Open the Head and 2012, The Return of Quetzalcoatl. And both of those books were pretty good. They're out there, but they're good. Dr. Rick Strausman, he was the guy that did the DMT experiments back in the 90s. Dr. Roland Griffith, he's done work with psilocybin and microdosing. Duncan Trussell, he does podcasts. He's like a comedian. He's been on Joe Rogan a lot. I just find him funny, and I just kind of like with him. The reason he made the list for me is I just like his disposition. Like, I like his energy. He's just like happy-go-lucky. Like, he's curious, but he's like not taking anything too serious, and he's kind of funny. Like, I like his vibe. Hamilton Morris, Jack Harrer. Jack Harrer is a cannabis legend. He wrote Emperor Wears No Clothes. Hamilton Morris is just a drug expert in general, like both natural and pharmaceutical. Joe Martino, he runs a website called Collective Evolution, which is in the resistance movement. People might say controlled op again, but whatever. John Anthony West, he's an Egyptologist. He was on Joe Rogan twice. Both of those episodes are really good. He's an older fella, but he's definitely got that old school swag, just straight to the point, dry humor, cuts to the bone type of no shit, no bullshit type of mindset or the way he expresses himself. John Cassiopo, he's a loneliness expert. So as the guy who started the Alienation podcast, I had to give my flowers to Dr. John Cassiopo or Capiopo. The only reason I heard of him is because of Johan Hari, who I'll talk about later. Jonathan Haidt, he wrote a book called Why Are Good People Divided on Religion and Politics? Pretty good book. He's also done a lot of research into like, he went to UVA and he was a liberal, but then now he's more conservative, but not even really.
Anybody
he's more like moderate.
From what I hear, you grow up, become an adult, you become more conservative. Usually that's how that happens.
Yeah, but he's a like a psychological, like the way he thinks is very psychological. So he broke down like why people are liberal, why people are Republican. It's a good book.
I've seen studies on that too. Yeah,
it's good. Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. Good stuff. I mentioned Judy Mykovitz earlier, virologist. She wrote a book called The Plague of Corruption in 2019, which is hilarious. Knowing what we know now with COVID, if you go and read that book, it's like, it doesn't seem that surprising. It's like, it's almost like, damn, I knew it was corrupt, like blah, blah, blah. But when you realize that she wrote it the year before COVID, it's just like almost mind blowing. Julian Assange, WikiLeaks. What else can you say there?
Yep.
Michael Rupert, he's committed suicide back in the mid 2000s, but he was the guy that broke the CIA drug trafficking story back in the day. About CIA smuggling crack into LA. Nassim Harriman, he's like he calls himself a universal physicist or a unified field theory physicist, but he's just a smart dude. He's a little bit too heady for me, and I'm pretty smart, so unless you're a really smart person, maybe don't worry about him. But if you're out there and you're one of the intellectual people out there listening, Nassim Harriman, mind-blowing. Ram Dass, LSD guy from back in the day. Mindfulness and meditation awareness are kind of his themes. Randall Carlson, a geologist that talks about the last ice age. And he talks about some like ancient civilizations, and in the same realm as Graham Hancock and John Anthony West and Robert Bovall, Robert Scott, who I both have on here. Randy Kramer, this is a name I had asterisks because this is a name that most people probably have not heard. He does, I forget, if you type in Randy Kramer Gaia on Google, you'll find, now you'll have to subscribe to Gaia or at least do the free trial. But Randy Kramer tells a story on one of those Gaia episodes about his life, his own life. And it's just, I don't even want to spoil it. Just type in Randy Kramer Gaia, super soldier might help. The word super soldier. And if you want to try the free trial, or if you already have Gaia, check that out. Just fascinating is what that's the word, fascinating. Sam Tripoli, podcaster, tin foil hat podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I don't listen to all of the podcasts that he does, but he gets great guests on every now and then.
Yeah.
So whenever he gets a guest on that I've heard episodes on there, or is talking about a topic that I feel really interested about, I'll check it out. The only ancient person I have on here, Socrates. I fuck with Socrates because when he died, he said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing." And I fucking love that quote.
I literally gee, seriously.
Perfect, right? Yep. Stanislav Grof, he did a lot of LSD research in the 70s, 60s, 70s. Timothy Leary, another LSD icon from Harvard. So that's pretty much that.